Hi, my name's Arianne, and I was inspired by my friend Latoya, and I was inspired by her honesty and her story, and I thought that I would share mine with you as well. Um, Mine has two parts, so we'll start with a little bit about me. Um, I'm American. I'm American born and raised. I lived in New York City for a really long time, but as a small child, I was raised in a small town in the Midwest. Um, but my entire adulthood, I mostly lived in New York City. I've traveled all around the world. I've lived in quite a few different countries. And what has taken me that direction is my artwork, which you can see a little bit behind me. You can also see more at ariannezager.com or on Facebook. And also, I'm a fashion designer, zagazaproduction.com, also Zagaza on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff. Anyway, um, I've always been very creative. I've always expressed myself through my art, my design, and my music. I'm also a musician. Um, and so this kind of also led into my two-part story. Okay, first part. So I'm living in New York City. I'm in my late 20s. I don't have any children. I'm doing me all the time. All the time, I do what I want. So I've always been pretty brave, independent, educated, all that good stuff. So I never, ever, ever would have thought that what had happened to me did happen, because it's never going to happen to you, right? Like, those are just silly stories that you hear about other people getting ripped off for green cards and used up with money. And a woman like me, this could never happen. I would never allow it to happen. Well, again, in New York City, I meet this musician from West Africa. I'm not going to use any names or any countries because I'm just not going to. Anyway, so I meet this musician. He's already in America, so no threat there. And I'm not really thinking about marriage. I'm not really thinking about, how certain people in certain parts of the world are said to act, or that these things happen, or none of this is crossing my mind at all, because it's just not. So anyway, years go by. We're in a relationship for a long time. I was foolish, and there were a lot of things right in my face, emails being sent to me, strange phone calls in the middle of the night, women screaming at me that I'm like the other woman, all this weird stuff. And every time I confronted it, I was either told that people are jealous of me, um, it's a misunderstanding, or it then evolved to, you're insecure and a little bit crazy, and you should probably put that into check. I'm with you. I don't know what your problem is. You need to stop being emotional. You need to calm down, and basically, you need to know your place. Um, this eventually ended up ramping me up into a crazy person, pretty much. But what led into that is I had gone home to this particular country in Africa, in West Africa, with my boyfriend at the time. I think we were together 2 or 3 years by then. I'd met his entire family, his mom, his dad. They had given me a traditional ceremony welcoming me into the family. Everything seemed very legit. Um, I felt, I genuinely felt that he cared for me and loved me. I knew that there were going to be cultural boundaries and issues and things like that, but I definitely felt like everything was real. So, um, stranger things are happening. There's all this drama all the time. There's all these problems all the time. There's all these money issues all the time. But again, I'm a little bit of a greenhorn. Um, am still at the point where, for the most part, what people say is probably how they are and who they are, and, benefit of the doubt. And, how come, why would all these good things happen? And I feel that it's real, but all these other things are being brought to my attention. And it was a very confusing time for me. So fast forwarding a bit, there's a sudden death in my family that rocked my world, to the point of almost no return. I've never been taken down and out like that before, ever in my life, and I hope I never am again. It's very difficult for me, very difficult for everybody in my family. So I decided that I need a break and that I am going to travel the world. And I ended up going to, 16 different countries on this trip. And I land in Australia. And so my boyfriend wants to come and meet me. So I get him a ticket and bring him to Australia, where we meet a bunch of his friends and everybody's very nice to me, and everything is okay. Well, lo and behold, his visa gets revoked and some other things happen that I won't really get into, but we're kind of stuck in Australia. And before we get stuck, on this trip, he had brought a ring from America and he had proposed to me before there was any trouble. And so I feel even more bonded at this point and more like responsible. I need to, I'm about to be your wife. I need to help. I need to take care of you. I need to make sure that everything works out and is okay. I need to be responsible for you because we're family. We're about to be family. So we get married in Australia, and the whole thing just rapidly fell apart. Like, he's staying out until 6 o'clock in the morning in the clubs, like a 30-something-year-old man-child, coming home, when the sun comes up, and when I ask, where are you, I'm told, like, none of your business, basically. Like, where's my food? What are you so needy about? Why are you always crying? Why are you looking at my phone? Why are you acting crazy? You're so insecure. I don't like this. I don't like that. Well, I'll give him that. Those things were true. I was acting crazy. I was being super insecure. All these things were happening because I was being used and cheated on, and my bank account was being drained to zero. I was allowing it. So I can't fully pass the buck. I was in a weird place, in a weird country. Things were happening. I allowed it. You can only get hurt and screwed over if you allow certain behaviors and certain red flags to continue to go on. If you want to go down the rabbit hole, you can, or you can be smart and cut it off at its nose. Anyway, I went down the rabbit hole. So, I end up getting a lawyer and trying to untie the knot. That was his visa being revoked. That was this big mystery as of how it happened. So, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars put into this, not to mention, like, he's a musician the whole time and can't pay for anything ever. So I've invested everything into this, and I'll be damned if I lose, is where that started to go. And I'm pretty competitive by nature. This time it did not serve me well. Sometimes you have to know when to just throw in the towel and walk away. But anyway, again, going down the rabbit hole. We're in Australia for 8 months or so, or I am, and I decided to go home and visit my family and regroup because I'm crying every day. Everything is a disaster. I can't figure anything out anymore. Everything I worked for is gone. My career is, at a standstill for 8 months. It just was no good. So I go home. Meanwhile, while I'm home, he decides to figure out very dishonest way to stay in the country that he's in, and no longer needs my services, no longer needs my green card, no longer needs to use me, therefore no longer needs me. But this isn't what I thought was going to happen, and this isn't how I viewed it, so it was a really big shock to me. But it was a slow shock because I was left to figure it out. There never was any phone call. There never was a conversation. There never was a breakup, a divorce. There never was anything. There was a coward that moonwalked into the background, changed his phone number, and disappeared. And I never heard from him again. So I didn't fully really get used up for a green card because it never made it that far. But I did get used up for money. I did get used up until he didn't need it anymore. And it was a life lesson that I do forgive, but I will never forget.